Good afternoon, guys. It is a great day to be in room 625. It is. For the past couple of days, we have been working on dividing decimals by whole numbers, and today we are going to work on dividing decimals by decimals. So what that means is we will have both decimals in our divisor and our dividend. I have updated the steps. You'll notice there's a couple extra steps today where we now have to make the divisor a whole number. Then we move the decimal and the dividend the same amount of spaces. Then we move the decimal straight up, divide like normal, and add zeros as necessary. And right here I have the DMSB, does McDonald's serve burgers, divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So as you can see, I have 42 and 65 hundredths divided by 5 tenths. Before, this was always a whole number, and we treat it as a pretty much like as a normal division problem by just bringing this decimal straight up and then dividing like normal. Today, we only have one real extra step, or kind of two little extra steps. And if we look at our steps, it says make the divisor a whole number. And we do that by moving this decimal all the way to the end. Because if the decimal is right there, that's just 5. So I have to make this a whole number by moving the decimal as far as I can to the right. Because as we talked about, a period comes at the end of a sentence, just like a decimal comes at the end of a number when it's a whole number. So if I'm going to move this over to the right one to make it a whole number, I have to be fair and do the exact same thing with my number inside of my dividend. So I'm going to move this over 1 to the right. And when I do that, I'm going to rewrite my problem to look like this. I'm going to get rid of the 0. I'm going to get rid of the decimal. So I'm going to be left with 5 divided into 426.5. So you'll notice I move this decimal one place to the right. If I move it once on the outside, I move it once on the inside. The whole goal here is to make this into a whole number. If I make this into a whole number, then it's the same thing we did the past 2 days. And that's the goal, is to make this look like the exact same thing we've been doing, because we know what to do. We've done that before. We're good at that. Now we have to get good at this. Once I do that, once I move the decimal, once I swoop it over, it's the same steps I did yesterday. Step 1 is to then bring that decimal point straight up. Then I divide like normal. 5 can't go into 4, but it goes into 42 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. I subtract, I get 2. Bring down my 6. 5 goes into 26 5 times. And if you notice, when I bring down my 6, the next one I divide, I put how many times 5 goes into this number above the number I brought down. So 5 goes into 26 5 times. So I put it above the number I brought down. 5 times 5 is 25. I subtract, I get 1. I bring down my last number. 5 goes into 15 3 times. I brought down the 5, so I write the 3 above my 5. I subtract, I get 0. So my answer is 85 and 3 tenths. So hopefully you see the parallels between today's lesson and the previous days, that all I have to do, the only difference I have to do is move that decimal over. Okay, let's look at example 2. Let's go for a little ride. There we go. So now I have 45 and 32 hundredths divided by 5 hundredths. Goal still remains the same. I need to make this a whole number. I make it a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. So I have to move this time 1, 2 places. 1, 2. Before I only moved it 1. If I move it 2 places here, I have to be fair and move it 2 places over there. 1, 2. So now my decimal is right there. So I can rewrite this problem as 4,532, and the decimal's there at the end, divided by 5. So our goal here is to get rid of the decimal on the outside, but we want to keep the decimal on the inside. We won't always need it, but it'll just be good practice to do for now. So once again, I am moving the decimal in my divisor to make it a whole number. Whatever I do on the outside, I have to be fair and do the exact same thing on the inside. Now I bring my decimal point straight up. 9 can't go to 4, but goes into 45 9 times. Once again, 5 can't go to 4, so I write nothing above the 4. 5 goes into 45 9 times, so I write the 9 above the 5. 9 times 5 is 45. I subtract to get 0. Bring down my 3. 5 cannot go into 3. But every time I bring a number down, I have to put another number up in my quotient. So since I brought that 3 down, even though 5 can't go in there, I still have to write a number up here. How many times does 5 go into 3? It goes into 3 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. I subtract to get 3, and I bring down my 2. 5 goes into 32 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. I subtract, I get 2. Now, hopefully you remember this from the last 2 days. I have brought down all my numbers. Okay, I have no other numbers written down, but I don't have a 0 here yet. In order to stop, I have to have a 0 here. So what I have to do is add a 0, and I add that 0 at the end after the decimal. I bring it down, and 5 goes into 20 4 times. And there's my answer, 906 and 4/10. Okay, let's try another example. On example number 3, we have 62 and 7/10 divided by 3/100. So once again, I need to make this number a whole number. So I'm going to move it over to the right once. I have to do the same thing over here, move it over to the right once. So that means this problem is the exact same as 3 into 62 are 627. I move my decimal over there, it disappears. I want to keep the decimal on the inside because I might need it later. I move it 1 there. There's my new problem. So hopefully we see a pattern here with each problem. Now I am going to divide like normal. 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 3 is 6. I subtract, I get 0. I bring down my 2. 3 can't go to 2, so I put a 0 there. 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract, I get 2. I bring down my last number. 3 goes into 27 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. I subtract and get 0. I forgot to do it, but that's my decimal point. I really don't need it, though, because my answer is just a whole number of 209. Just a simple whole number. You can't see me anymore, sorry. It's a simple whole number of 209. Okay. One last example here. I'm going to give you guys one more time so you can get a better look at it. We have 834 and 6/10. Once again, goal is to move the number of my divisor, move the number on the outside to the right in order to make it a whole number. Once I've done that, I have to follow suit with the number on the inside. I have to do the same with my dividend. So now 6/10, I have to move that once to the right to make it a whole number. But we don't have a decimal in that problem. It wasn't set up for us that way. Just like a period comes at the end of a sentence, when a number doesn't have a decimal, it still comes at the end of it. So there is a decimal there. I still have to move it once to the right. And because I move it once to the right, and it leaves a little empty swoop here, I have to add a number, and that number, hopefully you guys know, is I have to add a 0. So when I go to divide, this is the same as 834 divided by 6. Not 8,340 with my decimal right here. Let me recap that because I misspoke. I had to move it once to the right to make this a whole number. 6/10 is now 6 the whole number. If I move it once in my divisor, if I move it once on the outside, I have to be fair and move it once in my dividend or once on the inside. I move it once to the right because there's an empty spot there. I have to add that 0. So now that I've done that, I'm going to rewrite my problem. That way I'm not confused. And I'm going to have 6, a whole number, which is the whole goal, is to make my divisor a whole number, divided into 8,340. I have to include that 0 because there's an empty spot there. I'm going to go ahead and bring my decimal up so I don't forget this time. 6 goes into 8 once. That is 6. I subtract, I get 2. Bring down my 3. 6 goes into 23 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. I subtract, I get 5. Bring down my 4. 6 goes into 54 9 times. 9 times 6 is 54. I subtract, I get 0. Bring down my last number. And every time I bring a number down, I must put another number up in my quotient. Every time I bring a number down, I must put another number up in my quotient. And I know that 6 goes into 0 times, and that is 0. So there is my answer, 1,390. So hopefully this made some sense to you guys. Feel free to rewatch this video again. If you're still lost, look at my notes. I have examples of this in my notes, and there's also some YouTube videos down at the bottom as well that explain it pretty good too, pretty well. So if you have any questions, contact me, email me or contact me on Canvas. Make sure you're doing your work. Make sure you show your work. I say that every video. If you don't show your work, you're not going to receive full credit. I will take points away because I have to see what you're doing. I have to see your work. I have to see your thoughts. So that's it. Have a great day, and I will see you guys in room 625, hopefully relatively soon. See you guys.